Good afternoon, sticky lunchers. I don't know, is that the right way?
Nice, I like it.
Getting this, yeah, I'm just getting my screen up here. Bear with me while we get that going. Share screen. Oh, hold on. There we go. That was the problem because I wasn't the presenter. Okay, now we're here. Okay, we're in. Welcome everyone to today's Sticky Learning with me, Nathan Simmonds, and Andy Palmer, resident expert in category management. We're just going to give it 30 seconds while we wait for the last people to arrive in the room, and then we are going to crack on and share stage 4 of the 73% funnel. Let's just give it a moment. Let's make sure we're setting ourselves up for success. Mobile phones up and high. Let's make sure the little plane is lit up. Zero out the distraction, 100% attention on you and what you're doing here. Let's make sure also that you're hydrated here. It's getting warmer here in the UK. Thankfully, we might actually have a summer this time, who knows? Although according to the government, they have cancelled summer this year, but I don't think technically you can do that. So let's make sure you're staying hydrated, you're keeping your brain lubricated, and also let's make sure you've got a fresh page for fresh thinking. So let's get these ideas, any ideas that Andy is sharing, any questions that I asked that trigger a new thought, let's make sure we're getting them down there on that sheet so that you can go back and remember, reread and reignite that thinking to keep your learning sticky. I think we're almost on time, but you know what? I'm actually going to say this at the beginning of this episode rather than at the end of it. If you have not registered for tomorrow's Sticky Learning Lunch, I'm putting that, if you cannot see it in the chat box right now, I'm putting that in the chat box. Hold on, he says, bear with me. I'm putting the link in there for tomorrow's session and all our future sessions in the chat box right now. So if you have not already registered for tomorrow's session, for next week's sessions, whatever it is, the link is there. Please click on that, get that screen ready for you to go in there and register for the future sessions, and also it's there for you to copy and paste and share to your friends. If you know someone that's going to get value from category management, if you know someone that's going to get value from a deep dive on their own leadership skills in the next week, share this link with them. Let them know about Sticky Learning Lunches and get them involved in these classrooms to help them take their thinking to the next level. Let's do this. Welcome everyone to the room. It's good to see you all. Thank you, Tim. Good to be here. Michaela, good to see you. First time. Fiona, Fabienne, Darren, Colin, thank you very much for being greatly appreciated. Let's dive in. Welcome to today's Sticky Learning Lunch with me, Nathan Simmonds, Senior Leadership Coach and Trainer for MBM, Making Business Matter. We are the leadership and development and soft skills provider to the grocery and manufacturing industry. What I do with these sessions is just to help you be the best version of you in the work that you do, especially in category management. Andy, welcome back for day 4 of this. Thanks very much for being here. What are we covering today?
Nathan, we are now moving down into the 4th stage of our funnel. This is around turning analysis and understanding into opportunities. So this is where the fun, sexy stuff happens. We, back in the last week, talked about green category targets and more better understanding our shopper. Yesterday, we covered understanding our channel or our supermarket. Today, we're getting into turning analysis from all those various data sources and information that we have, turning those things into opportunities. Then for the next few days, we'll then figure out how we can sell those opportunities, plan those opportunities in store, and close off our funnel by taking some learnings back. That's what today's about.
Great. And Andy dropped the word in there, sexy, about the analysis side of things. Andy is very blue, he is very analytical, so he is going to use words like sexy when it comes to data. It's not everyone's cup of tea. What I will say is, though, data is absolutely vital. You know, we can't always make the right decision. What it is, though, is, when we get that information, then we can make better decisions on what it is we're going to be doing in order to get to know our supermarkets better, in order to get better know who our shoppers and our preparers and our eaters are, and making sure actually we're creating the right opportunities for those people when they go into our stores as well.
Absolutely. I thought it was worth me just kind of caveating the blue comment, as opposed to blue may have certain meanings, but it also from our kind of terminology means I am very analytical, very left brain thinking. It's one of those psychometric profiles that puts me in a quadrant that happens to be coloured blue, as opposed to maybe how I
your actual emotion.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how big a hole I was digging, but there we go.
But look, and that's a great lead. I was going to say that leads us on. We have looked to booking in some future sessions around HBDI and profiling, and I think that's a great lead into that. If you're interested in understanding your psychometrics, psychoanalysis, on what we do on those profiling, there's also that link that's going to take you through to those future sessions. We'll cover some of that as well, so we can get into that in a bit more as we progress in the coming weeks. So let's dive in. What does section number 4 of this funnel look like? And I'm going to skip along that slide so you can see a bit more of this as we go in, Andy.
Great stuff. Yeah, so it's taking all of the information that we've got, and right now out in the world there is a ton of data. We know that. Qualitative data, quantitative data, and typically we see most category managers and category analysts get lost in the data. There is just such a volume of it. They jump into the data, and effectively we look at it, it's a bit like a black hole. They just kind of get sucked into this thing, and then their time is spent generating charts and tables and graphs and hundreds of these various different pages. But actually what we're really looking to do is challenge the people we work with to come up with insight, true insight that leads to recommendation. We talked about it yesterday. Less is absolutely more. It's not about presenting a nice big deck. It is about presenting real hard, powerful category management opportunities that can drive a category forward. I've got a huge toolbox of techniques and calculations and formulas and things like that. Now, we're not going to be able to cover all of those, so I've got a sample that we can share with you today. If you're hungry for this and you want to know more because this is an area where maybe you want to improve on, then hey, let's start that conversation later on this afternoon. More than happy to kind of explore that with you to ensure that you're getting this bit right, because getting this bit right just means everything we do with our category management is underpinned with solid data, powerful recommendations.
Good. I'm just looking here, just making sure I've got all the right information to hand. So where have you seen then, when you talk to other companies about this and look for examples, where have you seen good examples of this data being used?
I think it's any company that has clarity on what we talked about on day one, having that target and then tailoring what they're doing to achieve that. So there are a million and one examples of where it's done particularly well, and equally there is the whole range of suppliers out there that are not doing it well. They're getting all this data and then they're not focusing on what's really important. What's really important is using the data to back up things like hypotheses. And for me, I briefly mentioned this the other day. This is one of my biggest tips. If we can start with hypotheses, or hippos as we lovingly call them, we can then more better focus our time and our effort into understanding those. So it's that stuff that starts, I believe market share is going up. I believe we've got less customers than we had last year. I believe there's an opportunity by driving X, Y, or Z. And then it's about testing them. If we can develop those hypotheses first, as opposed to just jumping into the data and getting lost in 101 Excel tabs, then we test it, prove it right or wrong. We will then be able to start on a journey of understanding where the true category recommendations are. There's a million and one different examples. I think the key bit for me, the takeaway there, is to really start with hypotheses and then go away and test them. Yeah, that's probably my succinct answer for a change.
And I think it's important that every day is a school day, and also every day is an experimentation day. And it's understanding as a business, as an individual, whatever, that okay, I've got a hypothesis. What are my KPIs? What are my metrics that are really going to add the most value to my business? Okay, and then laying those hypotheses over the top of it. Okay, I think this is going to happen, which is going to drive this, which looks like this in these key performance indicators. And then going and testing it out and having a look and seeing what comes back.
It is, and I think typically with all the data sources that are out there, and we'll start naming some of the really big ones, Kantar Market Panel, Nielsen data, all the way through to our qualitative data of the different focus groups or shopper interviews that we could do. Typically, with the majority of data, we look retrospectively at what's happened. Let's look back at the last 4 weeks. Let's look back at the last quarter, the last half year, the last year. So we're always looking back at our data. And again, another one for people to kind of take away the concept of actually, why not look forward and do what we class as future forecasting? If you've got a block of data in Excel, there is nothing stopping you from highlighting that block of data. If it's set out on time across the top, various rows, and then maybe they're all your SKU level data, there's nothing stopping you highlighting a chunk of data and dragging it out. Now, but dragging it out, Excel will automatically forecast what could potentially happen. We can use that with a kind of, being mindful of the data source that we've got, but we could use that to consider what's happening. Are we going to start seeing a downward trend in a certain set of products? Are we going to start seeing an upward trend in a certain set of products? So for me, data isn't just about looking retrospectively, it's about looking at what could be coming around the corner, what's on the horizon, starting to then factor into things like weather, because we know that has a massive impact, promotions, new products coming in, products going out, increasing distribution, big long list, of course. We're starting then to figure out where the opportunities certainly lie. So it's not always about looking backwards. Sometimes looking forward can be equally, if not more, valuable.
And I think that's important. I don't think enough leaders do this. And I've got this from personal experience myself. Where I've had the greatest successes is sitting there in October, November at the end of a year and looking at especially what's happened over in fresh produce, etc. It's easy to do that. You can see how harvest has gone, you can see how sales have gone over the course of that year, and then you can start to kind of, even as a rough rule of thumb, like you say, click and drag through your Excel just to see what those percentage increment increases or decreases are. Okay, rough rule of thumb, what does it look like? Okay, it looks like this. Based on that information, what do I think I would do now? What sort of conversations will I have with my sales team? What sort of conversation will I have with logistics in order to prepare them for those highs and lows that we can see that come through the course of that year based on the last 3 years of actual activities?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and spotting those shopper trends that are going to happen, that we know happen every year, and some that maybe we didn't know about because we've made some changes to our range, rationalization or proliferation, and then trying to figure out what's going to happen, what that means to ensure that we, at a very simple level, remain in stock, but at the same time see what trends are starting to occur that we can really start to capitalize on. It's absolutely key.
And it is, and I don't think, again, from personal situations where I've seen this in certain leaders, those conversations that give people the forewarning, oh, February looks like this, oh, June looks like this, oh, I remember that Andy said that was going to happen. Okay, now it's happening. When forewarned is forearmed. The people in your teams can come up with alternative solutions. The people in your store can see category management opportunities because they can understand what's going to happen in 2-3 months' time and feed that back into the engine so that actually you get a better result in that category space you're working in.
Absolutely. I think it's having those pre-prepared questions of where do you see that product going? Where do you see those group of products going? How are they going to develop? Now, those typical questions tend to freak category managers out because we have been so focused on the past with churning out our charts and our data, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what we've historically always done. We've only looked at what's happened. When we start asking those questions of what could happen, they throw up a whole different set of emotions and opportunities.
Okay. It's bringing up some different ideas for me in the ways to approach these sorts of things. What else would you suggest for people to help them get into their data?
Good. Hypothesis number one, let's start with that. We've then got those, let's call those old school tools of SWOTs and pests. We've all heard of them, and if not, worth a Google. We've all heard of them, but then they're really rarely used. There is nothing stopping you doing a simple SWOT or a simple pestle analysis on your category to, again, look for opportunities. Again, you're just starting to develop those hypotheses, and they're just great places to start. Blank bit of paper, get some thoughts down, a few people collaborating. Those tools have stood the test of time for a reason, but yet are rarely used, and again, can still be hugely powerful. Link that to what we talked about yesterday with, we talked about it as Rio, which was around our observations, our insights, our recommendations. We're starting to already build a story that we can succinctly communicate.
Agreed. And I use SWOT analysis in the PDP program. It's just, even if you're looking at your opportunities and threats in a marketplace, coming up with 13 opportunities, 8 ideas to leverage it, and 5 actions you can take immediately that are going to take advantage of those opportunities, and doing exactly the same with your threats, because your threats are actually just an opportunity in disguise anyway.
Absolutely.
But if you're not spending the time to question them and coming up with those hypotheses, you will not come up with new solutions to actually make the most of them.
Absolutely. And once you've got all those things, and I think we talked about it on Monday, it's writing down all those opportunities on a bunch of post-it notes, putting them into a Bostrom matrix. I won't draw it up again, it was there on Monday's recording. Biggest opportunities, stuff that we can do now, we can then start to prioritize. We put our time and efforts into. We start to build our plan because we're focusing up in box one. Big opportunities that we can start to deliver now, and then we've got the other areas that we can start to then make happen over the coming months. Just about prioritizing on what's going to make the biggest difference to helping us achieve that category target.
Agreed. Something else you've talked to me about and other people in this space is looking at the data animals. What data animal are you and is your company? So I'm going to bring that slide up, and then we're going to have a conversation about that.
Cool. I think this is a bit of fun, and at the same time it allows people to consider where they are. So when Nathan gets that slide up, you're going to see another Bostrom matrix, and it's based on the value of the opportunities that you're identifying and the volume of opportunities that you're identifying. So I'm not going to talk that through. You're going to kind of figure it out pretty quickly. Where you want to be is up there with those howling wolves in the top corner there. Lots of opportunities, all worth a lot of money. Flip side of that, the diametrically opposing quadrant are ostriches, sort of head in the sand type stuff, not identifying many, and certainly the ones that are identified at low value. So again, we use this as a bit of fun to challenge our clients, for them to kind of figure out where they are, but more importantly, where do they want to get to. It gives them a bit of language and a bit of fun to play with, but it's a good place to start to have that realization of, actually, we're really good at identifying loads and loads of opportunities, but they're all worth two bob. Let's see what we can do to kind of unlock that. Then becomes those awesome coaching questions. We can talk about the coaching cards a little later. There's awesome coaching questions to help them unlock their ability to analyze data, to find bigger opportunities with various different tools and techniques.
Absolutely. I'm just clicking submit to the coaching cards. Andy just mentioned the coaching cards. We've got the coaching cards in there, the MBM shop. Takes you through the category management phases in there as well. So the links there, if you haven't picked up your copy of the category management coaching cards, links there, and you can do that immediately. Great, crikey. I'm just thinking about time. Where are we right now? Let's come off of there. Let's get out of there, he says. We are at 18 minutes past 1, Andy. What else is important to cover right now when it comes to category management and the fourth stage?
Right, okay, so we've had a couple of kind of conceptual things around hippos, and we talked about SWATs and pestles, and there's a fairly huge toolbox. I thought I'd share this one with you because it's powerful. It's a simple calculation that anyone can run on the category with just a few bits of data. So this, again, seem to wrap things up in lots of three-letter acronyms. This one's called CDI, Category Development Index. Again, I like to just bring it out into fair and plain English, so I call this the fair share calculation. If, for example, you have the market share of your category and you have the market share of the particular retailer in, you can figure out whether you are under trading or over trading based on the value of your category, to then figure out the opportunity size that you've got or that you need to protect. And this is a great place to start, to almost get that top level analysis of, do we have an opportunity versus do we have something that we need to look after and nurture and protect because we're already outperforming. It's a good place to start as well, because any category, and there's a slight caveat to that, but any category should have equal market share to their retailer's market share. Let me give an example. Pick a category for me, Nathan.
Baked beans. I think we talked about this before. Let's go there.
Okay, so let's say baked beans is our category. Baked beans in this particular retailer has a market share of 17%. I'll make some numbers up. Pick me an outlet, or you could make me out. Let's call it Nathan's Stores. There we go.
Yep, we'll go with that.
Nathan's Stores. Nathan's Stores has market share of 20%. And what we mean here is that for every pound that's spent on food retailing in the UK, 20p goes through Nathan's Stores. So they have 20% market share. So they own 20% of that entire food market. For their baked bean category, only 17p of every pound spent in the UK goes through Nathan's Stores. So we can instantly see, actually, we've got an opportunity here, because there is no reason why Nathan's Stores shouldn't have, for baked beans, shouldn't have a market share of 20%. It's trying to achieve what we know is possible. The caveat I mentioned earlier is you will always have certain retailers that overtrade or undertrade in certain areas based on their demographics. So come back to that in a minute. A couple of examples. Our slightly more upmarket retailers, let's say Waitrose or M&S, will always overtrade a little bit more in products like avocados or fine wines, whereas our slightly more mass appeal retailers may undertrade in those particular areas. And then the reverse would be true. So Waitrose, for example, will probably, although I can't prove it to you right now, will probably undertrade in something like frozen frying chips, but they would probably do quite well with fresh, sliced, nicely salted potatoes in a pre-prepared area. So we will always have certain undertrades and overtrade, but as a rule, most categories should be able to achieve parity with their total market share. Is that making sense so far?
Yep.
Nathan's nodding. Some
Yep.
other people are nodding. I can't see him. Okay, so let's take this. So 17% baked bean market share, 20% market share for Nathan's stores. If we divide one by the other, that should give us an index of 0.94. So that's our category development index. If we then take the value of Nathan's baked bean sales in Nathan's stores, let's say they're 180 million. Good category there, Nathan. Good work. Doing well there.
I'm in the wrong job.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, 180 million divided by 0.94 minus 180 million. We'll get our opportunity size. Quick calculation in my head. Check it on your calculators if you want. We've got an £11.5 million opportunity from moving our market share for baked beans from 17% up to 20%, because we know that's possible, because as an average, that's what he's achieving within the market. Once I've got this, I've already got my value. I can then start to figure out how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to start looking at things like range, availability, promotions. I might look at a gap analysis to see if I've got the same amount of products as other comparable retailers, or a whole host of other areas. The interesting point was I started with, and I've calculated a value. Once I've got that value, I can figure out if that's big enough for me to go after, or if it was the other way around, and so this was 25%, I might have a £6 million opportunity that I need to protect, because other retailers are going to be coming after those sales and be trying to draw my shoppers away into their stores. Let me pause for a second. Is that making sense, Nathan?
It makes huge sense to me, and I think the point for me now is those people that are watching this or I know are tuning in at this point is understanding whether you've got these differences in what I'm doing in this product, what market share I've actually got overall, how valuable that is to be getting your category management right in the first place to increase or to protect what it is you're doing. Yeah. Through spotting these opportunities. So if people aren't picking that up now, even in this example, okay, so we've dramatized it, but actually getting your category management is absolutely critical to make sure that you're developing your business.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that calculation made sense. If it doesn't, it's because I've done a bad job of explaining it, and I can, of course, send you that calculation over. So drop it in the comments box if you did need to see something a little bit more on that. Pretty straightforward. Run it on your calculators, you'll see how it works out. Your market share, your category, your market share for your grocery, that gives you your category development index. And then we run our calculation to find out what the opportunity size is.
And my point to then that is, if you do that calculation, if you need to go back, rewind this and work out what that looks like, and you suddenly see there is a huge potential to grow what it is you're doing in whatever product it is you're selling, if there is a huge necessity to protect that market share of what you're doing, now is the time to have a conversation with Andy, with MBM, to actually help you grow your business in order to do those things. That's a super simple piece of arithmetic to do to see what the potential in your space is.
So for me, that's what we would class as a very left brain calculation to get to a number. So often we get asked the question, well, Andy, my account manager's asked me to value the size of this opportunity, or the buyer's saying, how much is this worth if we were to do X, Y, and Z? And sometimes you just don't have the data or a calculation like this to run. But there is an alternative, and I think we've probably got enough time for me to share this.
We've got 5 minutes to go.
I'm going to go for it. Okay, I'm going to go for it. This one's simple. I've got another 3 letters for you. Pro. This is a pro tool. Very, very simply put. You've got to calculate an opportunity size. You haven't got the data for it. You've got to make some assumptions. You can make some assumptions in an appropriate and an intelligent approach by using this. look at all the indicators that you've got coming in. You may look at run rates of other products or a whole host of other things. You're still never going to get to the actual value. But what you can do is come up with something that's, from your viewpoint and based on the information you've got, something that's pessimistic, something that's optimistic, and then something that's realistic. You can then present those to your buyer and say, do you know what, we can't get to the actual figure because we just don't know. However, pessimistically, we think it's going to be worth 5 million. Optimistically, we think it's going to be worth 12 million. Realistically, looks to be about 7 or 8 million. At least you've got a rationale behind what you're trying to explain, as opposed to going, oh, we think it's going to be worth 4.69 million guaranteed. Where have you got that from? Finger in the air, no idea. And it just stops you, again, we're going to talk about credibility tomorrow, but it stops you losing your credibility. So the pessimistic, realistic, and optimistic approach can just get you out of some of those slightly more sticky situations.
I was thinking that is, it's coming back to knowing your supermarkets and knowing your customers. You might not have all the facts to hand, but actually, if you've got some face-to-face experience, if you've got some kind of rationale that actually resonates with the supermarket, with your shopper and your preparers and eaters, etc., all those things, you're not putting numbers out the air. Again, it's that hypothesis base. It becomes an educated guess, and actually that then still, and with some mathematics that you've just done, gives you a credible understanding of actually what the opportunities are and what needs to be protected as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the category manager's credibility is absolutely everything. Sometimes, yes, we can do the algorithm type calculations and get to a number. Other times we need to be a bit more creative in how we approach getting to that size of the prize. But you know what? There's ways around doing it. There's plenty of options out there.
Amazing. Look, I'm just conscious of time. It's 27 minutes past, just clicked over to 28. What questions have you got for Andy right now in order to help with your category management? And if you haven't got any, feel free, you can put no in the box. That's absolutely fine. We've covered a decent amount of stuff today. If you've got no questions, say no. If you've got questions, what would they be? Let us know in the chat box. While they're coming through, I've already put in there the link for the virtual classrooms. If you are interested in looking to see if Andy, if there's an opportunity to grow your business by £11.5 million, according to Andy's calculation there, if you would like to do this, if you would like to have a look at this, then you need to be clicking the link there for the virtual classrooms to help train or develop your category managers, or even just have a conversation with Andy looking at coaching and developing your category management. There's a huge opportunity here to do this maths and support where your business is going with this. What have we got? We've got no questions. Channel plans, large stores, convenience, online. No questions. Channel plans. If any useful tools for this. Have you got any useful tools for channel plans, dash large stores, convenience and online, etc., Andy? That will probably mean more to you than it will do to me.
Yes is the answer.
Fire. Yes. So what would you like to do with that, Andy? Would you like to fire something into Fiona, or have we got 30 seconds you can cover that?
Let me pick up with Fiona separately and maybe just explore a little bit more what she means. I'm not going to charge her for it. Let's have maybe a brief conversation, see where it takes us. I don't think I'd do anything justice in 30 seconds.
We'll leave that one there. Right, and so Fiona, if you would like to put your email in the questions box, we could line up a conversation with Andy. He can cover that with you just to go through any tools and help you do that as well. We've got no other question. Thanks, Andy and Nathan. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for being here. Really, good session, guys. Good. Thank you very much, Fiona. Appreciated that. Everyone, look, there's nothing else for me to add on this session. Andy, huge value there. Opened my eyes up massively. All the links are down there in there for tomorrow's session as well. If you haven't registered, now is the time to register. If you haven't got your cards, now is the time to go and get those cards. I'm just going to share my screen there so you can see Andy's contact details. If you want to start a conversation about your category management, now is the time to do that. Thanks very much, Andy, and we'll pick up with tomorrow.
Pleasure. See you tomorrow, Nathan. See you tomorrow, everyone.